Hey everyone, welcome to the middle of nowhere. So I read some books, maybe just a few. This is what I read in the month of April, or Abril. And I was participating in a couple of readathons, so I read a few books, but I will say managing the numbers and some other circumstances outside my control cut into a bit of my reading. That I didn't read as many as I have in the past few months, but that being said, I still read a few. I also feel like I'm a little bit better prepared. I will try to give you the scores. I don't promise it though, because I may forget as I get rambling about the books. But let's get started. We'll start with my digital reads first, then we'll go through my physical reads, and then I'm going to start a new tradition. Let me know if you guys like it. If you do, please comment down below. Also, like and subscribe, do the usual YouTube things. I'm just incredibly grateful. At some point before I started filming this, I hit 150 people, or 150 subscribers, which is beyond my wildest dreams. I'm also giving up the cyborg look for this video. It will probably return in future ones just because of how my ring light holds my camera. I can't move it around very much. So if you want me to be looking at the camera instead of looking like this is what you get, or you get cyborg. It's just kind of the way it is. But I will be doing my book of the month, my favorite read. For one reason or another, it might not be the book of the year or the highest rated book ever, but it's the one that captured my attention and that I thoroughly enjoyed reading that month. But let's get going. Well, I do own this book physically, but I can't find it, so I'm going to include it as part of the digital ones, as I did the audio, which was very, very well done. I don't know the narrator, but for those that like audio, especially indie audio, I do recommend Stellar Instinct by Jonathan Never. I do have my review on Goodreads up and posted as well. But this was a really great sci-fi thriller type. I think it's a sci-fi thriller. Has to deal with some organizations, different technology and the use of spying, as well as clever use of poetry. It was really interesting and well done. Not a super heavy read by any means, but really enjoyed it, especially in the audio format that I was able to get through Chirp. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and I gave that one 4 stars. The next digital read that I did was The Last of the Renshai by Mickey Zucker-Reichert. So this was, if you remember me telling you in my previous video of what I was going to be reading, it's a loosely based Norse mythology of these characters known as the Renshai, which are these fearsome, they're the top of this Viking style. All they care about is dying a glorious death in battle. If you die not in battle, you are weak and go to hell. Like, that's just the way it is. You have to die in battle. You can't be suffering or somebody end your suffering. It has to be done in that moment. Also, if you're beheaded, you're also done, or any missing body part. So that part was really intriguing. I would say it's not very heavily inspired by Norse mythology, at least from what I know of Norse mythology. I've read some others that are a lot heavier, and they just mention a few of the gods, and I know the wizards and things like that have something to play with it. And correct me if I'm wrong, I could be very wrong. I'm not a scholar in Norse mythology, but compared to others I've read, it didn't seem that heavily invested in it. The characters were okay. They were not my favorite. There were some that I really enjoyed and others not so much. They were just kind of there. But I will say the highlight of this novel was the sword fights, and there are plenty throughout this whole thing, as that is what the Renshai are especially known for, is how well they are with their swords. And it was great. it was fantastic. They were heart-pounding, great action sequences, and it kept me invested in the book so that I did not DNF it. Other than that, I wasn't fully invested in the overall story. Found it a little bit boring or confusing as we kind of jumped as to what the main focus would be, and it didn't feel like the end fight was all it led up to be, as there were some previous fights that I felt were more well done, we'll say. They weren't medium rare like the end one was. But I still enjoyed it. I'll probably pick up book 2 at some point, maybe, if I get the itch to do so, but it will not be in the immediate future. Overall, because of the action sequences, I did give this one 3 stars. The other digital book that I did was Revenge by A.C. Cobble. I also did the audio of this one, which is narrated by Travis Baldry, and it is fantastic. This is book 2 in his Warhite trilogy, and it is political intrigue to the max. It is great. It's fantastic. I enjoy every bit of it. I really enjoyed book 1, and I did back the Kickstarter for book 2, so I should be getting that as soon as the hardcovers come out, and I will do a video probably of the book hauls that I've gotten. I'm not going to do one every month. I don't receive that many books. I do enjoy when I receive books, and it makes my day when I receive them from friends and family or ones I've purchased, and especially from the authors, the review copies. They really make my day, and I feel bad that I can't just immediately read all of them. But I'll do a book haul video soon. But Revenge has dragon knights, political backstabbing, new queen, everything you can think of. I don't want to go into too much, but if you're really into the political intrigue in a fantasy world, I think it's based on the 100 Years' War, but in a fantasy world. I can't remember for sure. It's based on some war, but it's very, very well done. Has spies, all sorts of mischievous happenings going on, and plus there's this subtle magic element that kind of curses the characters and things like that, so it's really good. Overall, this one got 4 stars. The other one that I also forgot to put in my pile, I have a dedicated book review. If I can figure out how to link it, it will be up in the cards, as I have a dedicated book review for it, but it is Heliotrope by Palmer Pickering. I'm not going to go into too much detail, as you can click up there, but it was a great read, especially for an older retired warrior discovering a found family and being thrown into this mess of the kingdoms and empires and coming out victorious and reestablishing magic in this world. Very, very good. Overall, that was my first 5-star read of the month. All right, now we get to go through my stack of books. We're going to start with a review copy that was provided to me by the author. This is book 2 in the Spellbinders and the Gunslingers, and that is The Children of the Black Moon by Joseph John Lee. And my review of this book is forthcoming, but this is what I thought of it. Just kidding, I don't want to give any spoilers as to what's coming on. There will be a dedicated review where I talk about the series as a whole, but I enjoyed my time jumping back into this world and seeing the different elements that the author has put forth for us. If you really like a kind of a historical setting, like historical 1800s style setting, I recommend this book, as it has guns or black powder rifles, as well as kind of that Native American or indigenous tribe type of feel as they fight for their survival. But you get to see a lot more of the magic of the character that's in this world in this book, and it was really cool to see. So no rating on that one, as I will give it closer to release, which should be towards the end of this month. The next book I also gave a dedicated book review for, and that is Wraithbound by Tim Akers. This one is a fast-paced, really cool magic system, top-notch. I will also try to link that one up above. but it is great. You get to fight the demons. The elements are a critical part of it, especially as you can bind them into your soul. And the sword is not sheathed at your hip, but it's sheathed in your soul, and so you can magically bring it into your hand. That functions as a weapon, as well as what controls the magical elemental that has been bound into the souls, and they can keep binding more and more of them. Really excited. The author provided me a digital copy. I did read it digitally, but I do have the physical copy right here, as is on my bookshelf, unlike Stellar Instinct and Heliotrope, which are on my bookshelf downstairs. I own a lot more of these in physical format than I believed. But overall, fantastic read. Highly recommend this one to anybody who likes fast-paced with a really cool magical system. So this next book I read twice. Why I put it off for so long, who knows? But that is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. It does have a little bit of the Hunger Games style feel of that it's teenagers thrown into this like challenge to see who comes out on top, but it didn't get much more of that feel than that. Everybody said it was more young adult. It still felt very adult. The only thing I'd classify as it making it young adult is the age of the main characters, which it ranged from the 16 to 19 years of age realm. But it is fantastic. I loved it. It's top-notch sci-fi, as it deals with our worlds that we know, but in a much future setting and with different elements as colors. The different societies represented by colors, reds versus golds, and how he infiltrates and goes on a quest of revenge. I will also be talking about this a lot more in depth once I finish the first trilogy. I'm currently reading book 2, Golden Sun, and have plans to read Morningstar in the month of May. By the way, 5 stars. This next book was what was picked in my poll pick for the Battle of the Bands readathon, put on by Jake, the Book of Stromer, and his girlfriend Stacy, which they did a marvelous job, and I believe that they are in the works for doing another one in the month of July. So look forward to that one. Come join in. They're much more musically talented than I am. I tried doing the bonus prompts of the music, and that just didn't work out very well. That is the book that was picked in my poll was The Terminal List by Jack Carr. This also has a TV show on Prime Video, which I also watched last month. And let's just say this is one time that I actually enjoyed the show more than the book. It feels like he's just spouting his own beliefs and wants you to be in awe of the Navy SEALs, which total respect for them. And I do have that awe for them and what they go through in a real life setting. The action was really great, and why I actually ended up finishing the book, but I wasn't in love with any of the characters or the plot that was going on. I really didn't like how all of a sudden we jump into the point of view of the victim just so we could feel the fear from the victim. Wasn't a huge fan of that. And some of the themes and whatnot, I don't want to be into political type of stuff, like in real politics or those beliefs, but it felt like the author had an agenda, and that's all this book was really written for, to show you how cool, well, I am not going to speculate on what he was trying to go through. Needless to say, I was disappointed with the book. It was not my favorite. The TV show was better, but still had some elements where I wasn't completely hooked with the mystery or the reasoning behind the rampage. I think that's my biggest flaw with this book, is I didn't really believe the element that was introduced to us as to why the antagonists went to the extremes that they did. Needless to say, I gave this one 1.5 stars, rounded up to 2 on Goodreads. I will not be continuing this series. I just really couldn't enjoy my time with this one. Last month, I also had my monthly buddy read with my group of friends, and we read The Age of Ash by Daniel Abraham. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. It has a lot of interesting elements, especially one of my favorite things, and you'll hear me say it all the time, is that it all happens in one city over the course of the year, and there's a lot of things going on, especially with some of the characters in there. I also did this one on audio and was trying to do an immersion read, but that's when I came up with one of my biggest pet peeves in books. Let me see if I can find it really quick. Right there. So yes, it looks like a chapter break. 100%. There's the end. There's the beginning. But it's missing a chapter. There are no true chapter breaks. There are in the physical novel. But when you're reading audio, it just goes from that, like a brief pause, to the next viewpoint. You don't get this like reset that my brain usually wants. And especially as an immersion read, it's really hard to find your spot. Because chapter 2, part 2, which is like chapter 2, on the audio is like 6 hours long. Which the story is really great and really fantastic. But I could not find where I was, and the characters would begin to run into each other in the audio format for me. It was kind of a problem for me. So I will probably be rereading this book just in the physical format, as I did enjoy the story, and I'll probably do it when book 2 comes out and just read them kind of back to back. But I was really disappointed in that aspect of it. And I feel like it's more the format of how the book is put together, rather, because the narrator was fantastic, but I didn't like how that part was put together. I truly do love a great immersion read, and this one wasn't. And because of that, it kind of gave me a negative feeling on the book. Not overall, but I ended up knocking like half a star for it. So it ended up at 3.5 stars. Still a really great book. Definitely interested in it. I haven't read The Expanse yet or anything else by Daniel Abraham, and I've heard great things by him, and I really loved the way that he wrote it, or the story that's within it, but just not the formatting of it. Then the final book that I'm going to be talking about today kind of carried over, as I'm filming this at the beginning of May. I didn't quite finish it in April, but I'm still considering it an April read, as I finished it shortly at the beginning of May, and that is The Lions of Lucerne by Brad Thor. This is his debut novel as well, and I also know he inspired Jack Carr to write his book, but this one was much more enjoyable. My only drawback with it was that you are very much spoon-fed the story. The clues are just kind of directly handed to you, and you do that weird point of view thing where there's no break between the characters. Even within the chapter, it's just from one paragraph to the next, which I know kind of helps with the pacing and the jarring part, giving you that sense, but it is not my favorite. I've found it really bothers me. But overall, it was still I enjoyed this one much more than The Terminal List, as it focuses on the Secret Service agent who, as he's trying to just find where the kidnapped President of the United States has gone, and the whole mystery kind of surrounding that. It was a much more believable plot, and as to what was going on. It's very, very quick paced. The ending felt a little bit rushed, but still really enjoyed it and gave it 3.5 stars. And now, with no further ado, you get my book of the month. It is none of those that I've already mentioned. It is The Malevolent Seven by Sebastian de Castilla. I probably just butchered that name, but that's okay. It may be surprising to some. I have not read any other books by this author. I've heard great things. They are on my TBR. I just keep pushing it back. And no particular reason why. But I saw this one was available on NetGalley, and I was going to read the combat codes, which you probably saw in the video, but realized that the Malevolent Seven expired before the combat codes did, and it comes out prior to combat codes. And so I only had a short amount of, I didn't want to rush myself at the beginning of May to try to cram it in, because I knew I had some other commitments to read. And so I bumped combat codes back to this month of May and read the Malevolent Seven. I will be doing a more dedicated book review, so you're just going to get some brief thoughts, but it was great. The humor is fantastic. It's very smooth writing, and I can tell you right now that I will be bumping up more of the works by this author on my TBR, probably end of May, beginning of June, if I can fit them in. But it was really great. Easy 5 stars. I know I mentioned to a few friends how much I was really enjoying this book, and then how much I thought they would enjoy it as well. And highly encourage everybody to check it out when it comes out the middle of this month of May. But really, really great, especially if you like the Samurai 7. Interesting twist on magic and wizards, as they are more mercenaries for hire, and what they're trying to go through and try to escape and survive, as well as good versus evil, or heaven versus hell, and other realms, we'll put it that way, impeding upon our earth. So really, really enjoyed it. Look forward to my review coming up in the next few days. Anyway, that's what I read in the month of April, or Abril. What did you read? What stood out to you? Did you have a book of the month? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you. You can also find me on Discord as George/the-middle-of-nowhere. But if you see me, feel free to shoot me a DM. Let me know what you're reading, or in the comments down below. Love to hear from you. But anyway, until next time, thank you for watching. Happy reading, and stay great.